Hi, we're going to be talking in the chat today. So chat away. Say hello if you're here. I want to start off with a question for you. Um, how many of you are already speaking? Drop in speaking if you're already speaking, or raise your hand if you want to do that. And who here, I mean, obviously you want to speak because you're here. So, um, who here is ready to get booked speaking? Yay. All right. So let me just make sure. There we go. All right. So this course over the next 4 weeks, we are going to piece by piece put your talk together. And then I'm going to teach you how to get booked. We'll have open Q&A so you can come back while you're getting yourself booked and I'll answer any questions, like how do I proceed with this response or whatever you need. So this is A to Z. We're going to create your talk and we're going to get you booked. Now, where are you going to get booked? We're going to get into that later, but you could be booked online or offline. So I want you to think about that as we go through this training. I'm going to be relating to what we're talking about as if you're on stage. You're going to build that out, and then I'm going to show you how you can repurpose it for podcasts, for summits, for any number of things. Okay. So when I'm talking, I'll be talking about getting booked, maybe at your local networking groups or at your bigger stages. Everything from small stages to sponsoring being a sponsor at a conference where you can buy a speaking spot. Once you start seeing how well this works and you start getting in the game and perfecting it, and you start maybe with local talks and you see that it's working, then you can just move on to bigger stages. For me personally, I believe that this format works best for live. If you're going to do virtual like trainings, not interviews, there's a couple sections you need to go much deeper in. And we're going to talk about all of that. So just to set you up, that's what we're talking about. So let me ask you this. How many of you want to speak but have some sort of hesitation? Drop it in the chat. Awesome. Okay, yeah. And then maybe let us know, what is the hesitation? I want to get booked. Used to, but haven't for a while. Me. Okay. Okay. So many times it's a fear of judgment. And if we look underneath that, it's like, what if I forget what I'm what if I don't know what to say all of a sudden? I just forget everything. Or um what if nobody's listening? Like they're texting instead of listening. They're just not even interested in what I'm saying. And what I'm going to teach you in these 8 components of a presentation that sells is how to set yourself up so that doesn't happen. By the way, these trainings will be hosted in Kajabi, and I'm building out some templates and worksheets for you. So you can go into your Kajabi. You'll get an email a little bit later today once the first training's uploaded. And you can just go check it out and you can follow along there. So let me get more people are coming. The other thing is mainly it's like I have to be perfect, right? So is that what you guys are feeling? Let's see what you have to say. Zooming in on the topic, having the talk or the talking points. Yes, all of those are important. When you have these 8 components of a presentation that sells, you will have everything you need, and then you'll be able to just switch out a couple of those components if you have a different topic. So week by week, we're going to go through 2 components a week, and we're going to put this together, and then we're going to talk about getting booked. All right. Who's excited? Who's ready to speak? I'm excited for you. Okay, so let me give you a little backstory. I've been in business now for 21 years, since 2004, and I discovered something really powerful when I first started my business, and that is the power of speaking. And I was not a speaker. I, I had given one talk. It was when I was the membership director at the Chamber of Commerce in Eugene. And I would go to ribbon cuttings and congratulate the owner and like introduce the person with the scissors, right? That was the extent of my speaking experience, basically reading somebody's bio, right? So I really didn't know what I was doing, but I had moved. I was in the midst of a divorce. I had moved 100 miles away from the place that I had always called home. I knew no one. Well, maybe I knew a couple people. And I needed to really get my coaching business off the ground fast because I had kids and bills and all those things. And so I decided I would go out and start networking. And I found a networking event that I attended, and I listened to the speaker, and then I saw at the end of the event all these people rush up to her, fill out her form, and say they wanted to work with her. And I was like, oh, I could do that. Like, I could totally do that. So I sat down and, well, I got myself booked, and then I started creating the talks. And I was terrified, like many of you might be right before you step on stage. But I knew this. I knew I was a good coach, and I knew I had something valuable to share. So the more I could keep myself in the energy of I am here sharing for the audience, not I am here and I hope they like me. I hope I don't misspeak a word, any of that stuff. When I could keep myself in that energy, something magical happened. And that was that I really began to connect with people. So I put my first talk together. I literally was shaking on the way. I got myself booked. I'll talk about how I did that on the way to my first talk, and promising myself I would never make myself do this again. It was like, this was all wrong. Like, you should not be doing this. And so I got there and I delivered my talk, and something amazing happened. I connected with people, and they came up to me and they wanted to talk to me after the talk. They were touched by the connection that they felt from me, and they started wanting to work with me. And I generated my first $5,000 as in a month as a coach from this experience. It was pretty incredible, because I really had no background in speaking, but I knew that I could help people. And so I want you to stop for a minute and put in the chat, every one of you can help people. What do you help people with? Let's start there. Like, what do you help people with? I'll tell you, back then, there was only one type of coach that didn't involve sports or, pretty much sports. And they were called life coaches. And it was this new thing. There was no segmenting within the life coaching industry. Life coaching was a segment. And I knew that I could help people create a better life for themselves by asking them powerful questions that had them dig into what they wanted, and then help them design a path, a strategy to get it. And to create these questions along the way that would help them think differently about how they were viewing where they were in that process. That's the basis of coaching. And so That was my premise. Now, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. So I went to business like networking events, and my talk was how to attract ideal clients. I delivered it hundreds of times. So what's your, but I knew this is what I'm wanting you to see in yourself. I knew that I was good at helping people make decisions to move towards what they wanted. What do you know you're good at? Type it in. Energetic flow. My main block is articulating what I do to help women. I've evolved and keep changing. Then I'm now not sure what it is. Well, maybe you help women evolve and keep changing. It's your lived experience. It's always that way, Amy. Like, oh, that thing I just do. Help people go from their logical brain to their intuitive, wiser self. Yes. My main block is how to get booked. Okay. That's not going to be a block for very long. Connecting with the deeper part of themselves that they either consciously or subconsciously have kept hidden for healing and living more fully. That's beautiful. I am good at strategy and facilitation and do it in the brand strategy space. Yes, you are. Yes, oh yes, you are. Okay. Keep typing if you haven't put yours in. Okay, so you know what you can do for people, right? And so that's what we want to keep in the forefront of our mind when we're thinking about our talk, because people can feel that. And when you're really tapped into the truth of what you can deliver for people, it's just dynamic, it's magnetic, it's all the things that make people want to buy from you. So before we dive into these specific components, I want to share the foundation of everything that works in speaking and in selling and in life. And it's called the CEO method. Many of you have heard it before. Connect. The first thing we want to do is connect. Once we've created a connection, we engage and then we make an offer. Most people in speaking start off thinking, that speaking's about pushing information at people. And how many of you have been in a talk where you're just like, oh my God, the person just keeps talking and it's too much. You needed a little bit of a break. Maybe you want to take a note. You feel completely disconnected and you're checking your watch to see how much longer this talk is going to go on for. And that's not a presentation that sells. In Unleash Your Speaking, we are delivering presentations that sell, and we're doing it through connection, engagement, and then inviting people to join us to move forward with our offer. It's very easy. This is about connecting with people. So the first component is called the opening, which makes sense. It's the first thing you do. And this is where you either like really grab your audience or maybe don't entirely lose them, but definitely have them go, yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Because if you've ever watched a speaker in the first couple minutes, you're either in, you're lukewarm, or you're out. So in your opening, you need to do two things. You need to create connection and generate engagement. And we're going to do that right away. As soon as that mic is yours, you are connecting and engaging with the audience. And the fastest way to do that is to ask them a powerful question. They don't need to know about you yet. This part is all about them. Now, you don't want to ask just any question. You want to use open-ended questions. And the best open-ended questions in this situation start with the word what. Because open-ended questions cause your listeners to use the right side of their brain. And the right side of our brain paints a picture and it creates emotional engagement. Closed-ended questions are the ones that people can answer with yes or no. And that activates the left side of the brain, the analytical side. People are like, yeah, I answered that. No. Did you have a good day today, honey? Like your teenager comes home. Yeah. What was the best thing that happened today, honey, at school? Now they have to stop and think and actually answer the question. So let me show you the difference here. So if I ask you, have you ever been nervous about giving a presentation? Type in your answer. Yeah, I've been nervous, 100%. Always. Yes. Okay. So that was a closed-ended question. But if I ask you, what goes through your mind right before you step on stage to give a presentation? Type that in. Many times it's, I hope they like me. I hope I sell something. Like, I hope I don't forget my script. What do you guys got? What? Right before you step on stage? The different components I want to be sure to remember. Yes. Working on calming myself and bringing my energy into the present moment. Yes. So, what happened with that question? That was an open ended question. You remembered feelings. So, your right brain had to, you don't have two brains, but the right side of your brain had to answer the question. And when you feel your answer, you're engaged. You've engaged with the question. Do you guys feel the difference there? Yeah, you're not just passively listening anymore, you're actively participating. That's the power of a really great opening question. I tap into no matter what, I will allow to get out of my own way. I tap into no matter what, I will allow maybe myself to get out of my own way. So, what's your powerful question? Let's talk about that. When I was doing my first talks, it was always, and it's still my default, if somebody handed me a microphone somewhere to lead a talk, I would say, I'm curious. What's the most important thing for you to create in the next 90 days? Hmm. And here's what people usually, here's their first answer. Oh, that's a good question. Sometimes they say it out loud. Most times they say it to themselves. Why? Because nobody asks them that. They're just figuring out the laundry and what they're going to have for dinner. But what's really important to me in the next 90 days? Oh, that's a good question. Maybe it's a question I haven't considered lately. What does that do? It creates engagement. Huh. And then they start looking for the answer. And this answer that they're looking for is what you're going to be speaking about, what you guys set up here. So no matter what they say, let me go back up here. No matter what they say to themselves as their answer, the solution can be found in what you shared, connecting with the deeper part of themselves. Brand strategy, intuition, evolving and changing. Because if they say to themselves, well, I want to improve my health, or I want to make more money, or I want a better relationship with my child or my spouse, they're going to have to evolve and change in order to get that, right? And so, Amy, using yours, can say to them, whatever that answer was for you, it's going to require you to evolve and change. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Or using Christina's, she helps people go from their logical brain to their intuitive self. So, whatever you're saying to yourself right now, there's a part of you that could tap into the wiser, intuitive answers that you have to make sure you get there. Are you guys seeing this? You're setting up your talk. Your talk is the answer to what they want. And they're like, oh, and it's from a perspective that they maybe didn't think about. We're going to title your talk. They know why they're there, right? So they've already, they've already been informed of what the topic is, but this is how you tie it in and you engage with them. So let's talk about your questions. What's your question going to be? Your question needs to be broad enough that it gives people space to think. And I've seen people use this and use it to try to lead people. So we're not trying to lead people yet. We're giving them space to come up with an idea that wasn't on their mind. So let's get your questions typed in. What is the one thing that holds you back from stepping into your most powerful self? Or what's the one thing that frightens you about stepping into your power? Then you've got to think about it, right? What aspect of your life would you like to have more ease in the next 90 days? Now they're leaning in. And you've created something, a desire for them that's on their mind. Now, the other thing that you can do here is actually engage with them verbally. So if I was to say, what's the most important thing for you to create in the next 90 days? And then I'm just silent. And this trips people up, speakers, because they think they have to be talking all the time. That's why we use filler words like, We feel like if we're not talking, we're going to lose the connection with the audience. One of the most powerful things you can do is create space like that for people to think and feel. So, what's the most important thing for you to create in the next 90 days in your life? And then they're thinking, and they're like, do I have to really think about it, or is she just going to start telling me stuff? No, I'm not going to say anything. And then it gives them just a minute to land an answer. And then you can say to them, somebody shout it out. One or two of you, what's important to you? And then they're like, oh, what? Like, this is interactive? I got to stop texting my kid. She's going to call on me? Like, this is actually a conversation, not a speech. And then I think that's awkward silence many times where you're like, nobody's going to answer. And if that awkward silence goes on for a while, sometimes I've just said, what? I'm a coach. You thought you were going to get by without a question or two? Come on. What's important to you? I just play with it, right? But most of the time, 99% of the time, somebody will answer. I want to move. You got to find a new house, whatever. It doesn't matter what they say. What matters is the experience you're creating for them. I'm going to say that again. None of this matters about what you're going to say. What matters is the experience you're creating for them. So there's all these different personality types. Some people love to engage and like to be seen and want to share, right? And so you just acknowledge them like, oh, a new house, that's awesome. One more. You're going to keep control of the audience. You don't want 7 more. And then you're like, okay, I probably have to, there's 7 hands up. I'm going to have to listen. Oh, no, one more. And somebody else will say something, whatever it is. They'll tell you their answer. And that's that. Now they feel like, okay, we're doing something together. We're doing something together right now. Huh, interesting. So you've set it up so they're feeling emotionally involved in the talk with you. And then we're going to go into your story. Because now that they're engaged with your opening question, the second component is your story. And this is a really important component because stories create connection faster than anything else. Stories evoke emotions. Stories teach people. Stories inspire people. So there's 3 things that you want to include in your story. Number 1 is it needs to be relatable. They need to somehow see themselves in your story. They don't have to have the same experience, but it's really relatable. Like, oh my gosh, what would I do if that happened to me? It needs to show transformation where I was and then how I got through that. And if we go back to those things you typed in, you know, that's your transformation. The one that Amy said, change and evolve. How did she get through that? She changed and evolved. Whatever her story is. Same for whatever you wrote. Energetic flow. Here I was. I tapped into my energy and I got over here. You're illustrating the power of what you teach, which also illustrates the power of working with you. So relatable, transformation, and it needs to be real, not polished, not, halfway true, authentic and real. So we want to work on your story. The biggest mistake I see here is they try to make themselves look like a hero. It was easy for me, so now I can show you. That's not relatable. You're not the hero of your story, they are. You're the guide who's been where they are or where they could see themselves and can help them get to where they want to go. Now, not all stories are going to be the same. My story was real AF. I went through a divorce. I was like, I am getting myself to a new city. I'm putting my kids in the best school district I can find. I have literally no security, no money to speak of, and all that's going to change because that's not who I am. And that's not what I promised my children the first time I held them in my hands. So when I tell that story, people can feel it. They might not have had that same experience, but everybody has faced challenge. Everybody has been in a defining moment where they could either shrink or rise. And so then they become the hero, like, wow. A lot of times they'll think, if she could do it, I could do it. So let's talk about your story. Go back to what you said your topic is, like that thing that's just natural. How have you used that to transform something in your life? Type that in. I'm going to read through your comments while you guys do that. What do you want your future self to thank you for doing now and creating the life you are both proud of? Story of my gut health and personal power journey. Yes. Story of all the times I surrendered when I didn't know what else to do. Yes, or could do to make a change in my life or my children's life. So, what you want to do with these stories, I'll give you a minute and then I'll go a little deeper. The story of resilience and intuition, having this ability and tools to navigate out of the dark and the pickles I put myself. Okay, so when you're doing a story, you want to, oh, here's one more. Going through divorce and losing the security depended on going through stage 3 breast cancer, choosing natural health over excuses, saving not one but 2 homes that I could have lost very quickly, owning my power and stepping into a national training director position. Wow, Lynn, you got 4 stories there. The moment I realized I was and no longer wanted to be the B actor, play the supporting role in everyone else's lives, and started living as the main character in my own. Okay, these are so good. So here's the real key to this. You take people to one moment in time. So we don't talk about our story, we bring people into our story. It's like the difference of your friends saying, did you see that new movie? It's about this, this, and this, and actually going and watching the movie where you're in the moment. So, in the example I used for you, when I said, I made a commitment to fulfill the promises I made to my children the first time I held them in my hands. That's a moment in time. I didn't say I wanted a good life for my kids. I took people to the moment my child was born and the emotion that I felt as I made a commitment to them. That's a powerful story or piece of a story. One moment in time. So you guys have got it here. Like every one of the things you said, going through a divorce and losing the security you depended on. One moment in that, there were plenty of moments in my experience that I could talk about. But choose one defining moment. And a good place to look is the moment you made the decision that created the transformation. What had you make that decision? Christy has a moment. It was a moment I realized it was no longer the B actor. And a way to get this out, a really great exercise is to just in your mind say, so here I am. If you were telling me this story, like in Christy's example, so here I am. And maybe she can see herself. She's sitting on a black couch and there's a cup of coffee in front of her. And she just did all these things for other people. And she realized she was feeling this way and it wasn't going to work for her anymore. Whatever that is, we're only bringing them into one moment. And the moment in time created the story itself. Had I not made that decision, I wouldn't have packed up a U-Haul with my last 30 bucks and moved to the most expensive town in the state with my kids and no job. And like, I had 2 clients that were paying me $250 a month. Oh, good Lord. And they rented a house for $1,200. Like, what? Right. So, but that decision led to that story. So here I am. My daughter is in remission after a cancer battle. And I knew it was time to focus on myself so I could heal. Yeah. So that second part, there's so much opportunity there. And in that moment, I knew if I didn't nurture myself and strengthen my body, my mind, my soul, I wouldn't be able to support her or myself. Like, give us some of the details, right? We don't want to talk about things. We want to go a little bit deeper. We're bringing people into the actual experience. It's as if they're in your mind witnessing your thought process, like, I got to do this. Because if I don't, A, B, C, that's a good one. Lynn, choosing natural health over like healing yourself, right? The moment you made that decision, go back to that moment where you're like, okay, this is happening. The question that came up for you. So here I am. Am I going to go back to the doctor that is going to tell me I need chemo? Or am I going to do this other thing? And there's a bit of uncertainty, right, in our stories. I didn't know if I was going to make money or not. All I knew was that I was going all in, right? Same thing in this example. Like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I know that I'm going to make it work. I've got to make this work. Which path will I take? Amy's like, something that happened in your life or your children's life. And you're just like, I don't have the answer to this, but here's what I know. My connection to source, God, whatever Amy you say, does. And I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to surrender to something bigger than me. And then we get to tell the outcome. And people are leaning in like, oh, geez. Okay, I think that's everything we've got there. How's our time? Oh my gosh. Okay. So your assignment is to work on your story and your question this week. And then I want you to either journal or consider however you process. I want you to think about this. What's one challenge that you've overcome that your ideal clients are facing right now? So my story wasn't about divorce or moving. It was about making money when you're facing, you know, a challenge. It was about owning your power, your value, and sharing it before you ever felt you were ready. So what's yours? What's one challenge you've overcome that your ideal clients are facing right now? You don't need to write out the whole story, just the challenge. And this is part of your homework. And you guys have already got a big part of this done with what you shared here. So here's what I want you to remember about your story. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be rags to riches. It just gets to be true and relatable. People are thinking, okay, I'm going to go see the speaker. And the next thing they're thinking is, I know this person. You only told them this much, but they feel a connection, right? Connection and engagement. Some of the stories that I've worked on with people are things like Learning to say no without guilt. What's the first time she did that, right? Or raising your prices, finding the confidence to just charge what you're worth. So there's millions of stories. The question is, what story is so deeply true for you? I cried so many times on stage when I would picture myself holding my children. And that's fine. I still get a little like, I'm super proud of that girl who did that. I still have an emotional connection to her, right? I want you to feel it because when you feel it, they feel it. And you know what? Those times that I have tears in my eyes coming down my cheeks sometimes, people would line up afterwards to hug me, to thank me, to hire me. It didn't happen because I have a 7-point training on inside my program. It happened because I connected and engaged with them. I opened my heart and I shared and I illustrated to them possibility for their own life. That's what you're doing. The real thing here, I said it, I want to reiterate it, is they're thinking of themselves, oh man, that could be me. Like, oh God, I could see that. They maybe never have, but wow, what would I do there? Okay, so after hearing this, let's just type in, what kind of transformation do you help people with? We talked about it a little bit. Okay, pop that in. What's your transformation? It can be broad, it can be narrow. My transformation has always been design a life you love. Now, there's a lot to what makes that happen. Generating authenticity and true power from more harmonized energy flow. Katrina, you've got a power promise. It's about personal power. I help people get clear on what their true self desires rather than what their ego wants. That's a desire. Like that's a self-awareness problem, or not problem, transformation. I help people transform their relationships with their partner and with themselves. So you are a relationship transformation expert. You transform relationships. Okay, so let's talk for a minute about fear. Because speaking is the number one fear. You've probably heard this said, but it's worth noting. People fear speaking over dying. Like, oh my. I'm glad they're not afraid of death, but wow, it's way up there. So usually it's like, what if I mess up? What if I forget what to say? What if nobody cares? But people aren't looking for perfection. This is a good way to lose your audience. Try to make it perfect. This is a good way to get no signups in your offer. Try to make it perfect. People are looking for connection. They're looking for someone who gets them, who've been where they are, and who can help them move forward. Oh my gosh, some of my best or most success, I don't know whether to use the word best, highest sales I'll use, presentation have included a fairly large mess ups. I guess we'll call them mess ups. Technical like problems, times when I just completely forgot where I was at. I just forgot where we're at. And because you've got a connection with the audience, they lean in and they say, "You were telling us about this." And they just shout it out because you gave them permission to be in an experience with you, not sitting in front of a talking head. People related to me even more because I was human. It's okay to change things in the middle of your talk. We're going to outline all of this. That's why there's 8 components and you can move them around and use them, but you can change things out. You don't have to, like, you can go, you're part of the experience too. How's our time? Okay, I'll save that for another time. All right. So, what we want to get done before next week is to have the foundation of your opening, like your powerful question, maybe some engagement, like, practice, like then I'll say, "Oh, go ahead, Susie, tell us," and one more, right? Get that part down. And then your story. So we want your opening question and your story. Remember to start your opening question with the word what? What's been your biggest challenge with? What's the most important thing to you about? What would change if you're in your life if? Those are powerful questions. What's the one thing you wish you knew about? Energy, change, relationships. Okay, so that's your assignment. Before we wrap up, write your question. What do you guys got? Don't overthink it. Just because you're in the flow of this, just type in what is coming up for you. Yeah, these are so good, you guys. Christy, take a chance on themselves. Oh, Amy, that's good. What would your life look like if your emotional, physical, and energetic blocks were no longer keeping you from living the life you desire? That's good. Okay, so what would change in your life if you felt more powerful, true heart-centered power? Oh, that's a good topic. What might happen if you really allowed yourself to be as powerful as you are? What would life be like if you had the certainty that your heart held all the answers to your question? These are good, you guys. Okay, so the other thing I just want to outline before we wrap up, you're going to want to write this down. This is for your story. What was your struggle or challenge? Number 2, what decision did you make? Number 3, what action did you take? So when I tell my story, I say, I decided to move 100 miles away from the place I'd always called home. And I packed up a U-Haul. That's the action. What action did you take? And my hands shook as I drove that U-Haul to a city that I'd only recently discovered. So what action did you take? That's number 3. Number 4, what was the result? I'm going to copy and paste these for you too. Oh, I can't copy and paste from this. Okay. What was the result is number 4. Number 5, how does this connect to what your audience needs? And again, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. It's the outcome, the result. So that's your homework. Opening question. Create your story. And then I've got a couple more things for you. Tell your story to at least 2 people. Don't read it, just tell them off the top of your head. And what I want you to do while you tell them is notice which parts they lean into and what parts might feel like you've got too many words, or like it's just feeling like you're dragging a little bit. And then record yourself telling your story. How long? A minute or 2, maybe 3. We don't want to get into, we want to make it clear, concise. It's a clear picture you're painting and it's concise. So you're not going into all the details. What were 1 and 2 of the 5 things? What was your struggle or your challenge? What decision did you make is number 2. Number 3, what action did you take based on your decision? Number 4, what was the result? Number 5, how does this connect to what your audience needs? Okay, so this is we covered the foundation of connection. We've covered the opening that engages, and the story creates trust. And those are the first 2 components of the 8 components of a presentation that sells. So next week, we're going to dive into 3 and 4. And I'm going to teach you the what, why, and how method, how to speak to the problem that keeps your ideal clients up at night, which is the reason they'll buy. That's what we're going to dive into next week. So before we close up, what's your biggest takeaway from today? Type it in. An aha, an insight maybe you didn't have an hour ago. I'd love to hear what resonated with you. I have an important story to tell. Yes. That's great. So I'm reopening our Unleash Your Speaking Facebook group. That's a great place for you if you want to come in and practice your story, ask questions about your story, comment on anything you're working through as you're doing your question. You can put your powerful question in there. So I'll add you all and tag you, and we can keep this conversation going there. The opening question starts the process. Yeah. Stories are powerful to create connection. You brought me to tears when you said that what I might be helping women with is evolving and changing. You're welcome. Truth tears, Amy. Let's see if there's anything else. I think that's it. We'll be back next week. Look for your notification. You'll get a notification when I tag you so you can join the group. Let's really dive into creating this between the trainings. So this, what I want for you is to, when this course is over, I want you to have a talk and be booked. So what I don't want is for you to consume information and like put it in a folder and stick it on a shelf. So let's keep the conversation going. And I'll see you next week. Bye.